rich young lady fell in love with a poor family's dog, but to everyone's surprise,
He wouldn't sell you, Grace.
the Duke was not discouraged. He would give the poor man an offer he couldn't refuse.
We don't need his money.
Not today, perhaps. But for how much longer?
Lassie was a smart dog. She had a happy family, a lovely best friend, and a little master, Joe, who loved her dearly. Every time the school bell rang, she would always show up right on time at the school gate to walk Joe home. She was like a devoted daughter to the household, and like an inseparable older sister to Joe, bringing the only comfort to their impoverished family. But no one expected that change would come so quickly. The very next day, the mine where Joe's father Sam worked shut down, and all the workers lost their jobs. Sam's face went pale with despair. This was a devastating blow to their family. He stared blankly into the distance, as if he could already see his family struggling through the harsh winter ahead.
There's a Mr. Carracloth at the door, Your Grace. Shall I send him away?
No, I was expecting him.
For only £15, the Duke got his granddaughter the gift she'd been longing for. After school, Joe noticed that Lassie wasn't there waiting for him. Seeing the grave expressions on his parents' faces, he already had a guess as to what had happened. Lassie had been at the estate for days now, refusing to eat or drink. The Duke ordered his dog trainer, Haynes, to take good care of her. But every day, right when Joe's school let out, Lassie would grow frantic in her cage, desperate to get out. So one day, while Haynes wasn't paying attention, Lassie set her escape plan in motion. When the school bell rang again, Lassie was waiting at the gate as usual, early as ever. Joe hugged her excitedly, but before they could even make it home, Haynes intercepted them halfway. On the road back to the Duke's estate, they were blocked by a flock of sheep. Seizing the opportunity, Lassie opened the car door, used the sheep as stepping stones, and escaped again, running straight home. But before long, the father and son reluctantly brought Lassie back. Sam even told Joe to say some hurtful things to Lassie as a final goodbye.
You're a bad dog and we don't love you no more. So stay here and leave us be.
Then the two of them walked away in sorrow. Jenny could see Lassie's sadness. She was running away because she missed her home. But Haynes didn't see it that way. To prevent Lassie from escaping again, he specially added heavy wooden boards to her kennel. And tomorrow, the Duke's family would be leaving for Scotland. Haynes taunted Lassie on purpose, telling her she'd soon be saying goodbye to this place for good. Mocked and provoked, Lassie grew frantic. She paced back and forth, biting at the bars, looking for any way out of the iron cage. With a running start, she leaped over the fence once more and fled toward home. Soon enough, Haynes came rushing over, demanding the dog back. But after everything that had happened, Joe had secretly hidden Lassie away. His father told him the deal was already done. Lassie now belonged to the Duke. If they kept her, that would be theft. And so, Lassie was taken back to the estate once again. After returning home, Joe moped around. His mother tried to comfort him. They could barely afford enough food as it was, and if Lassie stayed, she'd go hungry right along with them. The next day, the train headed north, eventually arriving in Scotland. Lassie was about to start a brand new life at the Duke's grand estate. There were hundreds of prized hunting dogs there, but none of them had ever been as untamable as Lassie. Finally, Haynes lost his patience. He pulled the belt from his waist and struck her hard. Lassie couldn't help but yelp in pain, and used the moment to slip free from her collar. Then she bolted for the door. Haynes chased after her without letting up. By chance, the Duke was driving home. Haynes shouted not to open the gate, but Jenny pretended not to hear. She opened the gate without hesitation, and Lassie rushed right through. Furious, Haynes lashed out at Jenny, but the Duke spotted the belt in his hand, and immediately realized he had struck his dog, and had even just yelled at his granddaughter. The Duke would never allow such behavior in his home, so Haynes was fired on the spot, and Lassie began her journey back home. She rested for a night in an abandoned house, and set out early the next morning. Lassie had barely reached a small village when the police spotted her. They had been sent by the Duke to find her, but these men were hopelessly incompetent. Over a dozen of them worked together to corner her, but still couldn't catch Lassie. Just then, the Duke drove up and blocked her only escape route. With a light leap, Lassie jumped onto the car and got away. Watching her receding figure, the Duke knew full well that Lassie would rather starve than come back. After that, Lassie kept heading south. She tried to beg for food and water at a farmhouse along the way, but was mistaken for a chicken thief and nearly got shot. Lassie continued south and reached a town. She was looking for something to eat, but the dog catchers spotted her. They closed in from both sides and started their pursuit. Lassie was caught under a net, but just as they were about to lock her in a cage, she slipped out through the brief gap when the door opened. She ran frantically in all directions, and accidentally wound up in a courtroom upstairs, even hopping into the witness stand. The judge was baffled. In all his years on the bench, he'd never seen a dog in his courtroom, but as the dog catchers gave chase, a terrified Lassie went out the window, risked it all by climbing along a high ledge, and then jumped onto a passing car to escape. After going through all the experiences along the way, Lassie no longer dared to trust humans, but hunger was gnawing at her, so she kept her distance while following a carriage from afar. Too afraid to get close, a kind man named Rolai offered her a small treat, but Lassie only sniffed it and didn't eat. She had never had anything like it before. After some time, time, Rolai stopped by the roadside to rest, and Lassie lay nearby, waiting. Rolai shared his meal with her, and this time, Lassie finally ate. She continued to stick with Rolai after that. And so, one person and two dogs traveled around the country performing for a living. With just a little training, the clever Lassie quickly became their new star act. Winter was approaching, and Rolai planned to head home for Christmas. But the day before they left, two hunters set their sights on him. They wanted to shake him down for money. Being small in stature, Rolai was no match for them. He could only hide under the carriage to avoid their attacks. Lassie barked fiercely, trying to scare them off. But one of the men swung his club and hit her hard. Whimpering in pain, Lassie turned and ran. The little white dog bit at the man's pants, but was struck down with a single blow. Hearing the commotion, Lassie spun around and came running back. She charged and knocked the man to the ground. Then, with shared grief and fury, the two of them fought together and drove the hunters away. But the little white dog was gone forever. They buried him by the roadside and said their final goodbyes. A day later, when the carriage reached a fork in the road, Lassie chose the path leading south. Rolai didn't stop her. Even though he wanted nothing more than to take Lassie home with him, he knew she must be missing her owner terribly. After offering his final blessings, Lassie continued on her journey home. Smart as she was, she knew that as long as she followed the railroad tracks south, she would eventually find her way back to Joe. Snow began to fall heavily, and the weather grew colder by the day. But the streets ahead were becoming more and more familiar. It was Christmas Eve. Everyone was out celebrating the holiday, while Lassie trudged alone through the snow on empty streets, staggering into an alley. But by then, she was completely exhausted. In the end, she collapsed and couldn't get back up. Fortunately, her friend Tiny spotted her. He anxiously tried to get Lassie to stand, but she had no strength left. So Tiny raced to the church, tugged at Joe's scarf. Before long, Tiny led Joe to the snowfield. Then Joe's parents followed. They stared at Lassie in disbelief. After a full year, crossing all of Scotland, enduring hunger and exhaustion over 500 miles of rugged terrain, Lassie actually returned home. Everyone was moved by this loyal dog, and all marveled at the miracle she had achieved. But after a thorough examination, the vet said, Lassie had completely exhausted her strength. Perhaps she felt that she had fulfilled her wish to return home. The beating of her heart gradually became weaker. The vet couldn't guarantee she would survive the night. The family stayed by Lassie's side through that agonizing night. But the next morning brought an unwelcome visitor, the vicious Haynes. Desperate to get his job back, he called the police and demanded to take Lassie away. Sam had no choice but to agree. However, he insisted on personally taking Lassie back to the Duke's estate. By this time, the Duke was back in town. While the family was gathered together, Haynes showed up uninvited, making a scene about how he had found Lassie. After a few brief questions, the Duke understood the general situation. After carefully examining Lassie's condition, he was deeply moved and made a quiet decision. The Duke said this sick dog was not his. The one he bought was healthy, and it wasn't lost here either. He didn't believe a dog could cross all of Scotland and run all the way back to this town. Even a bird couldn't make it that far, let alone a dog.
Well, it's impossible. Wouldn't you agree, officer?
Yes, Your Grace. If you say it's not yours, then that's the end of it.
The Duke had resolved the matter perfectly, and rightfully returned Lassie to her family. But Haynes wasn't satisfied, and wanted to keep arguing. The Duke didn't waste words with him. He simply ordered his dogs to see the guest out politely. With the family's tender care, Lassie regained her health. Not long after, the Duke came to see Sam. With Haynes gone, the estate was in need of a kind and responsible dog trainer. The Duke offered Sam a job, £6 a month, with room and board included. The whole family could move in, including Lassie. The family gladly accepted, and the Duke had fulfilled his promise to his granddaughter in his own way.
I swore I'd have that dog, and now I've got her. I just had to buy the man as well. I think I've got a bargain, don't you?
A few months later, Lassie gave birth to several adorable puppies. Together, they all ran joyfully across the meadow, and would never be separated again.